Did you see what's going on? Obviously, you've seen what's going on in California. But the governor gave this creepy fucking speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down while it's still only 6% contained. And he did this little dance like, I've been talking with with the governor of Hawaii about what to do. We got some ideas. A speculator. We're gonna have some meetings. Like, he's
really?
Oh.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable, turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors. On Monday, he urged cities to ban the camps from sidewalks, parks, and other public areas. So after years of denying the problem, he's now pretending to fix it, which is like putting on a condom as you're leaving a whorehouse. Who hasn't?
It all started with a smug little grin, but by the time the cameras cut to black, Gavin Newsom was in full collapse. This wasn't just a bad interview, it was a televised implosion. You could see it in his eyes. He wasn't ready for what was coming. Somewhere in the chaos, he lost track of which camera to panic into. And yes, the panic was real. His face froze, his confidence cracked, and suddenly, the audience at home saw the cracks in the shine. This wasn't California's golden boy anymore. It was a man unraveling on live TV. Joe Rogan came in like a wrecking ball with no brakes. He didn't ease into it. He charged in headfirst, throwing cold, hard facts like steel kettlebells across the studio. And Newsom, he could barely keep up. Then, just when things were heating up, Greg Gutfeld made his entrance.
Gavin ponders why Dems lost.
We lost. We lost the popular vote, and we lost the electoral vote. We got crushed. But
Kennedy, I think the answer is yes. Was
it because of Israel? Yes. Interest rates? Yes. Too woke? Yes. It's like every bad policy that trickled up to the White House during the Biden administration started in California. That state is responsible for the worst politicians in modern history. And he is at the top of the list, and there are some ignoramuses on that list.
And it was game over from that moment on. With one smirk and a jab sharper than a California tax hike, Gutfeld flipped the mood from tense to explosive. What came next wasn't a debate. It was a slow-motion policy explosion that lit up every corner of Newsom's record. His polished image didn't just slip, it completely disintegrated under the pressure. And no, not even his industrial-strength, triple-layered hair gel could hold back the collapse. It was like watching a mannequin melt under stage lights, and everyone saw it. Nobody in that room believed the Newsom brand anymore. Not the panel, not the audience, not the viewers at home. The trust was gone, and in its place, pure disbelief. Joe turned to the camera and didn't hold back. He said what millions were already thinking. Nobody wants President Newsom, he declared. That guy's a walking narrative. And you could hear a pin drop. The audience froze. Gavin's eyes darted. He was sweating beneath the studio lights, trying to hide behind political buzzwords, but they weren't working this time. Greg chimed in, dropping a punch that sent the room reeling. That man struts around like a toothpaste commercial, he barked. But underneath, it's all buffering video and recycled slogans. Then came the montage of everything Newsom had tried to bury: vaccine mandates, mask hypocrisy, botched wildfires, and climate promises that fizzled faster than a faulty solar panel. And Rogan was relentless. He looked right into the lens and said, "He's not a leader, he's a script. Whether you like Trump or RFK Jr., at least you know they're human. But Newsom? He's a cardboard cutout."
Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy's a fucking con man. Everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids to being caught public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician. Just a stone-cold, narrative-driven politician. Nobody thinks he's a real human. Whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he's corrupt or not, that's a human being. You know what that guy is. Same thing with RFK Jr. Whether you believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective, and you know that's a human being. With Newsom, you got like this construct, this cardboard cutout of a person. I don't think people want that, but they might want it more than they want President Trump.
The camera cut to Newsom, zoomed in close. His grin stiffened, and suddenly his confidence vanished. That sparkle turned into sheer panic. The illusion was breaking, live and unedited. And just like that, the voiceover thundered in like a wrecking ball of sarcasm. The glitz was gone. What was left? A stunned man in a suit who had no idea what just hit him. Greg leaned forward, eyes flashing. Every disaster that rolled out of California, he said, it all started with him. The studio gasped. You could feel the air thicken. Joe nodded slowly and added, he acts like a savior, but governs like he's blindfolded playing Sim City. And that was it. The final blow to whatever image Newsom had left. He tried to fight back, but his words collapsed under their own weight. The audience wasn't buying it. They'd heard it all before, and now they saw right through it. Then Greg dropped a hammer of a joke. This guy wants to run for president. It's like opening a franchise of a restaurant that just failed every health inspection. The audience roared. Gavin's smirk twitched into a grimace. The tension was no longer simmering. It was boiling over on national television. Suddenly, the highlight reels started flashing. Newsom at disaster sites, smiling, while people stood in ashes, talking about development plans while homes burned to the ground. And Rogan didn't let it slide. He said, people lost everything. Their homes, their heirlooms, and this guy's up there dancing about land use. Then came the clip. Gavin doing a strange little shoulder wiggle mid-speech. Rogan replayed it in slow motion. Look at him, he laughed. He's excited about speculators coming in after people lost their homes. Gasps rippled across the audience. This wasn't political theater anymore. This was raw, painful reality. And Newsom looked like the director of a horror show he couldn't stop.
Their houses have been burned, all their childhood memorabilia, all the stuff for their kids, the photos, the fucking everything they have is gone. All heirlooms, you know, their mother's wedding ring, that kind of shit. Everything's burnt to the ground. And this guy's like standing in front of all this stuff, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's talking about land use.
The development plans.
Watch this.
I keep bringing up Gavin. Well, other than my respect for his work in American Psycho, he's starting to distance himself from his party's worst ideas. Newsom, a guy who hates fossil fuels but could still bring down the price of gas by wringing out his hair, once proclaimed that his state would be a sanctuary to all who seek it.
And just when you thought the moment couldn't get more intense, Greg pounced again. He banned gas stoves, and now half the state's cooking dinner by flashlight. The audience howled with laughter, but it was laughter mixed with anger. The absurdity had boiled over, and now even the jokes were landing like punches. Joe's voice dropped into a steady, deadly calm. California isn't just broken, he said. It's become unlivable, and he's the reason why. And there it was. The turning point, the shift, the final realization sinking in across the room. Gavin Newsom wasn't being exposed. He was being decoded. And then came the gut punch. Joe Rogan didn't just criticize, he revealed. I left California for a reason, he said flatly. It wasn't politics, it was survival. The silence in the room said everything. Greg nodded, eyes locked on the camera. He didn't just leave, he added. He escaped, like a guy who saw a glitch in the Matrix and hit the emergency exit. The audience burst into applause. You could feel the energy shift. Newsom wasn't just floundering. He was drowning in the very narrative he tried to sell. And Joe didn't stop there. He painted a picture with brutal clarity. I traded gridlock and lies for freedom and power that doesn't shut off when the wind blows. The crowd leaned in. Everyone was listening now. He described how he moved his entire studio, his life, his crew, all because California became hostile to anyone who dared to innovate without permission slips. Then he said, the line that would echo across the internet by morning, California didn't push me out. Gavin Newsom did, and the ripple it sent through the audience was electric. Meanwhile, back on screen, Gavin tried to respond, but it was too late. He stuttered, stumbled, and blinked like a man trapped in his own press release.
Down in Hawaii, you had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
With a big smile on his face. Look at the little wiggle he does with his shoulders. Speculator, watch this. Talking to Josh. Look at this. Look at this little wiggle. It's excited about the possibilities of speculators coming in. And he's saying we're move forward. We're going to move forward on that. These people lost their homes. A lot of those people don't even have fire insurance because the fire insurance pulled out of California. I think like 69% of fire insurance pulled out of California because they're like, this is too crazy. Like, you guys aren't doing jack shit to manage this. You're not clearing the brush.
And Greg, never one to miss an opportunity, jumped in with the line of the night. He governs like he's curating an Instagram feed. All filters, no fixes. The studio erupted. Even the crew couldn't hide their reactions anymore. Laughter, gasps, head shakes. It was clear. The Emperor's suit had been vaporized. Then came the footage. Gavin's podcast trailer, rolling proudly online while his state burned. Not a single word about the wildfires. Just polished monologues and glitzy intros. Joe pointed at the screen. That's leadership, he said, incredulous. That's image management, while people are still digging through ashes. Greg followed with a mocking grin. He's doing inspirational voiceovers while firefighters are still on the ground. The hypocrisy was laid bare for all to see. And just when things seemed to hit peak absurdity, Greg raised a finger and said, wait, look at the shoulders, the wiggle. That's the wiggle of a man excited about land speculators. The clip played again. Rewound, paused, laughed at. The audience could barely contain themselves. And Gavin? He was practically a statue, frozen in place. Joe's calm voice cut through the chaos. People didn't lose power. They lost trust. That's harder to restore than any power grid, Greg added with a wink. And California's grid isn't exactly setting any records unless it's for blackouts per capita. The crowd roared again. Then came the exodus. Greg described it perfectly. It's like a 21st century Oregon Trail. Only this time, they're driving Teslas and fleeing high taxes instead of dysentery. And Joe added, and instead of covered wagons, it's podcasters, entrepreneurs, and engineers, all leaving because they feel suffocated. Then he delivered another knockout. California punishes freedom and rewards slogans. And Gavin's the poster boy. At this point, Gavin looked like a wax figure melting under a spotlight.
And he's the guy who thinks he's going to run for president when, so much of the state is absolutely unlivable. And so every project that he's championed, he's now trying to demonize conveniently. And people are not that dumb. Like, people have been through it in his state. They are sick of him. They want him to leave. And maybe that's why so many people around him are like, you should totally run for president. So he gets out of the state.
Yes. Move away. Tyrus, did he leave out anything?
So, while Californians have lost their homes and they're still suffering from the devastation, what does Gavin Newsom decide to do? Well, now is apparently the perfect time to try and boost his popularity and essentially promote himself. Does it even mention the most horrific fire catastrophe that occurred under his leadership, partly as a result of the decisions he was making, like cutting fire prevention? No, this is his chance to talk about his image, insisting that he's no ordinary politician.
He blinked, adjusted his tie, and looked everywhere but the camera. Greg leaned in again. He banned plastic straws but couldn't clean up the streets. He talks climate but dines in the dark. That's not green energy. That's green screen energy. Then Joe got serious. When real people suffer, you don't smile for photo ops. You show up, you take responsibility, and you fix the mess. The camera cut to Gavin again. And this time, even his posture gave up. Slumped shoulders, distant eyes, frozen smile. He was a man exposed. Greg took one last swing. This guy wants to run the whole country. He can't even run a podcast without ducking accountability. And then came the final moment. Joe and Greg turned to each other. No words, just a look of total disbelief. Then they looked into the camera together. Joe said it plainly. This isn't a partisan issue. This is about results. And Gavin Newsom's track record. It's glitter on garbage. Greg added, leadership isn't about good lighting and speeches. It's about showing up when things go bad. And he didn't. And just like that, the illusion collapsed. Not with a bang, but with a sigh, a cringe, and 1,000 blinking lights capturing it all. That night, the headlines wrote themselves. Newsom melts down on live TV. Rogan and Gutfeld deliver political knockout. California's shine turns to smoke. And Gavin, he left the stage quietly. No post-show handshake, no final words. Just silence, and the sound of his image crashing down behind him. Because in the end, when the filters fall away and the spotlight gets too hot, only the truth remains. And Gavin Newsom, he couldn't stand the heat. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan returned to his studio with fire in his chest. His phone lit up with messages, thousands of fans thanking him for saying what so many were afraid to say. And Greg? He leaned back in his chair backstage, grinning. I don't know what we just did, he said, but I think we set something on fire.
About anything? I think there's about 100 other reasons too.
Well, you can't, it's not his words when he speaks.
Yeah.
You have to watch him closely. And some genius decided not to film him any lower than the shoulder.
Yes, did you? Yes.
So what did he do?
You couldn't see the hands.
No, but he sent Morse code.
Yes.
Go back and watch it. Look at the blinking. Blink, look. Meet me at the house. Like, he's blinking. He's sending, I'm getting there. Hey, just so you know, I'm not wearing pants.
When Gavin Newsom talks about California, he's like, I'm very big on California, very bullish on California. Hey, they're all moving. The only reason why they don't move is because it's too difficult to move. It's too expensive to leave versus all the bullshit with all the permits and all that. It's too expensive. Believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective. And that's a human being. With Newsom, you've got like this construct, this cardboard cutout of a person. I don't think people want that, but they might want it more than they want President Trump.
Back in California, the headlines weren't kind. Newsom unmasked on national TV. Golden Boy or Gaslight Governor? Rogan and Gutfeld detonate the narrative. Even left-leaning outlets had no choice but to report the moment. It was just too big to bury. And the footage didn't lie. Replayed frame by frame, Gavin's eyes told the story. He didn't just lose control, he lost the illusion. No more filters, no more carefully curated speeches. Just a man, cornered by truth and stripped of performance. Calls for accountability swelled. Online petitions, hashtags like #Newsom exposed and #California collapse surged through the algorithm like a storm. Even former allies began to distance themselves. "We were misled," one party strategist said. "He's not the leader we thought." Rogan's podcast hit record numbers that week. His breakdown of the showdown was clipped, memed, and analyzed from coast to coast. He didn't gloat. He didn't dance. He just laid out the facts. Calm, clear, and devastating. Greg Gutfeld's monologue the next night sealed the coffin. "This wasn't a roast," he said. "It was a rescue mission, because someone needed to pull America out of that fantasy." And the audience agreed, because what they saw wasn't just a politician slipping. It was the moment the script shattered and reality stormed in. In the weeks that followed, Newsom attempted damage control. Press conferences, interviews, carefully staged walk and talks through California streets, but it didn't land. The trust had evaporated. The smiles looked forced. The narrative was broken. His podcast launch stalled. Sponsors pulled back. Public appearances were met with protest, not praise. He became the cautionary tale he thought he was too clever to star in. And in the silence of his office, alone at night, he watched the clip that changed everything. Not once, but dozens of times, trying to figure out when it slipped away, when the performance cracked, when the mask fell. But it didn't matter anymore. America had seen enough. Joe Rogan didn't set out to destroy Gavin Newsom. He just asked the questions that no one else would. Greg Gutfeld didn't plan a takedown. He just told the truth, with a few extra jokes on top. And together, they didn't just expose a man. They exposed a machine, a carefully polished myth built on slogans and spin. And they did it not with anger, but with clarity. In the end, it wasn't the firestorms or the blackouts or even the failed promises that undid Gavin Newsom. It was the moment he believed no one would ever dare to challenge him. He was wrong. And now, the shine is gone. The spell is broken. And Gavin Newsom is no longer the future. He's the warning. Because when truth walks into the room, performance doesn't stand a chance.